If you're here on Zoom, welcome. If you're on YouTube, welcome. Whatever platform you're joining us from, it's amazing to have you. This is Nigeria's 63rd Independence Anniversary celebration. And this year, our theme, if you can look at it on the screen, is Accelerating National Development in the Face of Global Transformation. It's really a topic whose time has come, and we have the best people to, put this apart into pieces, put it back together, and help us see what role we have to play. So very, very warm welcome to you once more. Apologies for starting a bit late. We were waiting for a few people to join us so that we have a transition all through. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, all good.
I'm going to go straight to the agenda. I'm going to share with you what we're going to do here tonight. And then after that, we're going into safety. So the agenda for the night. Of course, we have the welcome by my humble self. After that, we'll be having a safety briefing, which is very key to our industry, key to what we do, and not new here. And after that, we're going to be respecting our, saluting our respective countries by singing and enjoying the national anthem, both the national anthems for Nigeria and the national anthems for Brunei. Hello, I'm getting some feedback from someone. Could we please stay muted? Thank you very much. Then we're going to have the welcome address by our Nigerian community chairman here in Brunei, Dr. Daniel Amogo. And then after that, we're moving on to remarks from the Nigeria High Commission in Kuala Lumpur, our High Commissioner, Her Excellency Ambassador Hajara Aisaleen. We're still waiting for some feedback from her team to see if she's able to join us or not. I'll be bringing you more information on that. And then I'm going to have the singular honor of introducing our keynote speaker, who is Dr. Mrs. O.N.D. Omogiafo, and then she's going to be speaking to us for a while. I can't wait for that one. And then we have a panelist, dangerous panel tonight. Sadly, we've had someone send his regrets because for some reason that's personal and which he has shared with us, in which we do understand, he's not able to be here tonight, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. And then we have panel discussions, questions and answers. Your questions have been pouring in, and we've been trying very hard to stay, try to keep the time, but I can imagine why there's so many questions because of the caliber of people we have on the panel tonight. Then we'll be taking the closing remark from engineer Mrs. Eloho Aiboni, and vote of thanks from the NIAC chairperson, Bolanle Oduayo Ojo, before we take virtual pictures, another reality of our times, and then we'll bring everything to a close. So we intend to be concise, straight to the point, at the same time having a truly insightful moment. Let's go straight into the safety. Please pay attention to your surroundings because we're all in our various homes. And so you know where the nearest route for escape is, should there be any danger or should there be an event of an emergency. So please do pay attention to your surroundings. Would like to ask that you do not multitask and you stay focused as much as you can. That literally is the way to get the most out of this session. This session will be recorded, and so you will have access to the link after it has been edited by the working committee. And if you'd like to ask any questions, we have you covered, and you can use the question and answer button on the Zoom page. So just put your questions there. You can either put your name there or you could be anonymous. It depends on you. Also would like to plead with you to keep your microphone muted at all times to minimize disruptions during this webinar, okay? And if you're called upon to speak, remember to unmute your microphone and please introduce yourself. That's another, another norm in our times. Hello, can you hear me? And I've been speaking and I forgot to unmute. So please remember to unmute yourself and please introduce yourself should you be asked to speak live. And because if you're in an open space, please do speak softly so you do not disturb or disrupt what is going on in your environment. And of course, something that Shell is well known for, and all of us, one of our cultures, is respect. So let's be respectful in our transactions and in our communication, in asking of questions, and in everything that we do here tonight. So once more, you're very welcome. That's our safety briefing, and it's with great honor and a great sense of green pride that I announce the national anthem. First of all, we'll take the Nigerian national anthem, and without further ado, the Bruneian. Thank you. Thank you very much. Coming up next, would like to invite our community chairperson here in Brunei in the person of Dr. Dan Amogo for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Karachi. Good morning, everybody. Good morning for those in Nigeria and good evening for those in Asia. You are welcome once again to the NIAC webinar. This year being the 63rd year of our national independence. We are here again to talk about a topic that is very important, which is accelerating national development in the face of the global transformation. It is my pleasure to start by appreciating the keynote speaker, Dr. Mrs. Owen Omogia. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation to speak to us on this topic. I would also like to appreciate Engineer Eloho Juliana Iboni, the MD of SNEPCO. Thank you for joining us at this very moment. In the same vein, thank you to Mrs. Folake Soetan, the CEO of Ikeja Electricity. It is with deep thought that the organizing committee selected this team to come and discuss this topic, because from the oil and gas sector to the conglomerates, the commercial sector, and also the electricity aspect of our nationhood. Together, we need all of them to actually accelerate the national development of Nigeria. And that is why this topic is very important. And I know with the quality of the people we have invited and have honored this invitation, we are going to get very important tips on how to contribute towards this acceleration, because they are already doing that in their own field. Nigerians in Brunei are very well respected set of people because of the contributions they are making to the development of Brunei. Not just this set, over the years, Nigerians have contributed significantly in oil and gas development and contribution, and then in commerce. We have in education, starting from heads of the departments to those that are still pursuing their postgraduate degrees in Brunei. So Nigerians are in every sphere. In sports, Nigerians are very prominent here in Brunei. So as we continue to contribute to the development of Brunei, so we also desire for more of our own contribution. Hence, this discussion to ensure that we contribute to that acceleration. I believe in the course of this conversation, each and every one of us will once again be stimulated or motivated to see a sector, a part of the economy where we can even contribute more than we are doing at this very moment. Again, like already mentioned before, Nigeria Independence Day is the second largest event in Brunei. Nigeria is the nation that is very well recognized. Throughout the past 3 weeks, activities to mark the Nigerian Day has been on, and people from all over the globe, from different nations and nationalities, they have all keyed in one way or the other. So I wish us a very wonderful evening as we are going to listen. Thank you once again for all the organizers and all the hard work that has gone into this. Thank you. Karachi, back to you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Dan. Now you see why he's our chairperson. He calls the shots, and that here in Brunei, things have been working like very smoothly because of the kind of person that we have at the helm of affairs. Thank you very, very much for that opening remark, Dr. Daniel Amogo. And now we're going to move on to introduce to you our keynote speaker. But just before I do that, I'd like to also recognize, even though she's not here, but she has made it a point of duty to identify with the Nigerians here in Brunei, even though she is based in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and that's in the person of Her Excellency Ambassador Hajara Aisaleen. She really wanted to be here, but we've looked around, we haven't seen her yet. Maybe she might join us or she might not, but however, we honor you and we appreciate that you are part of this community as well. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker for the day. I'll be reading the profile of Dr. Mrs. Owen D. Omogiafor, OON. Now, Dr. Mrs. Owen D. Omogiafor, OON, is the president and the group CEO of Transnational Corporation, PLC. Transcorp is Nigeria's largest listed diversified conglomerate with strategic investments in the hospitality, oil and gas, and power sectors. Transcorp is the owner of the iconic Transcorp Hilton Abuja, and through its power plants in Delta State and River State, accounts for about 18% of Nigeria's power generation capacity. Prior to becoming the president or the group CEO of Transcorp PLC, Owen was the MD CEO of Transcorp Hotels PLC, where she drove the completion of the $132 million renovation of the Transcorp Hilton Abuja. Owen is the first female and the youngest person to hold these positions. Before I continue to read her profile, allow me just some seconds to click. You know, in spoken word, you click when you can't clap. So this is saying that you can understand the person that we have here as a keynote speaker. She's a multi-award winning professional. Owen has over 2 decades of experience in organizational development, human capital management, financial services, change management, hospitality, energy, business transformation, and strategy. She's held various high-profile roles throughout her career, including being the Director of Resources at Hares Holdings Limited, a Pan-African investment company, HR advisor to the Group Managing Director of the United Bank for Africa, PLC, and as an organization and human performance consultant at Accenture, specializing in change management. She holds a BSc, a double honors in sociology and anthropology from the University of Benin. If you're in Benin here tonight, you'll be feeling some type of pride, some type of way. But yes, she is an alumnus of the University of Benin. She has a master's in science in human resource management from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and an honorary doctorate degree in engineering from the Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Efuru. She's also an alumnus of the Lagos Business School, an IESE business school in Spain. Owen is a member of the Chartered Institute for Personnel and Development in the UK, a certified change manager with the Pro-Sci Institute in USA, a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management in Nigeria, a member of the Institute of Directors in Nigeria, a member of the boards of AfriLand Properties Limited, Transcorp Power Limited, Transafam Power Limited, Transcorp Hotels PLC, and Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. She sits on the advisory board of Hares Academy and is a vice president of the Lagos Business School Alumni Association. A multiple award-winning professional, Owen has been recognized as one of Africa's top 100 women in leadership and one of the 100 most influential African women, highlighting her significant contributions and impacts. In May 2023, she was conferred with the National Honor of Officer of the Order of the Niger, the Special OON, for her outstanding contributions to the nation. And in June 2023, she was awarded the Businesswoman of the Year, All Africa Business Leaders Award. She's married with 3 lovely children. Please, can we take our hands and let's just make welcome and feel ourselves as we introduce Dr. Owen tonight. Lots of applause going on for you. It's such an honor to have you here tonight, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good. Well, where I am, it's morning, so I'm going to say good morning, everyone. I'm super delighted to be here. And thanks, Karachi. What an introduction indeed. I hope my sound is clear.
Very clear. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Please pardon if you have any glitches along the way. So I'm experiencing part of the globalization today. I had called Babs earlier on to explain that I was caught in the UK rail strike. So right now I'm actually in the vehicle trying to make my way from one part of the UK to another, because I'm right now playing one of those duties. You know, so she's married with 3 lovely children, and part of balancing is ensuring you're available for the children. So I'm on children's visits right now, but here I am. So nice to be here. Thank you. Karachi, would you like me to just go straight ahead?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay. So good morning once again, and thank you indeed for the honor of this invitation. I'm not sure now if it's Babs that put me up for this or Ella herself, but whatever, I say thank you so very much. It is an honor and a distinct privilege to be here today and to talk about a topic that is really dear to all our hearts, which is around Nigeria's national development in the face of global transformation. Indeed, we've seen how the world is growing, how the world is developing. Now, when I got my first degree in sociology, back then, we had this lecturer, Dr. Chigwe of blessed memory. He used to talk to us about globalization. And back in the days, globalization just seemed like something you read to pass. But today, here we are, and the world indeed has become more of a global village than anything else. So Babs, if you could assist to move on to the next screen. I'm quite conscious of time, and it's just a very simple outline. We will go through our global transformation, take a look at our dear country, Nigeria, have a look at some of the case studies of how we've seen countries that have transformed from where they were to where they are today, where they've grown to become a force to be reckoned with and still continue to grow, notwithstanding the challenges. We will examine a few key takeaways for us as Nigerians, and we would end with a call to action for ourselves. Babs? I'll try to make this as interactive as possible. So what are we saying today with our global transformation? I mean, we all like to have definitions. So when we talk about global transformation, we're looking at significant and fundamental changes that is transforming the way we see the world, it's transforming human society, it's transforming economics, politics, technology, culture, and everything that is familiar to us. In the past years, there have been 4 key factors that's really that's driving global transformation at the scale we're seeing. First, I mean, especially for you guys in Shell, which is, I mean, we heard the story now, oil and gas somehow seems to be a taboo word. And both companies, oil companies are changing their names, going from XYZ oil and gas to so and so energies. That's how they're going. So we see more around the climate change and sustainability, which of course is driving in a large scale the energy transition that we're seeing, which has a lot of import for us as Nigeria and Africa. Africa still has a deficit in energy, and we also have a lot of our oil and gas resources still trapped underneath. But there's this transition, and the reality is that once you're a player in the world, you have no choice. You do have to move on. Number 2 is we've seen a lot of changes from the digital transformation and technological advancement. There's been significant advancement in technology. One of the conversations I always have, just had a few days ago, is technology is happening. The world needs to move faster. We're saying that jobs that were hitherto to perform by maybe 20 people, today you just have one robot, and the robot is able to get the job done faster time, to better quality, and at a more reliable pace. And of course, capitalism being capitalism, you keep looking at how do I get the best for my buck. So, but we see this thing, and now being some further discussions around the social impact of it. How do we manage to continue to transform on a digital scale, promote technological advancement while still ensuring that there's a balance on the social side of things? You almost do not switch on the internet today where you're not hearing about things going on with AI, Internet of Things, and all of that we are all faced with, and we need to contend with as we're moving on. Demographic changes. We see around the world, there's population growth. In Africa, we continue to have a high population growth. We are blessed though, because whilst you find some parts of the world, of which one of the countries I'm going to speak about during the case study, facing aging population, we have a pretty youthful population, especially in Nigeria. But the demographic changes, you're seeing migration patterns, which is leading to different shifts in workforce dynamics. You find now that, like, I'm talking to you now, I'm somewhere on the highway. I don't know which of the highways I'm on. Some of you are in Brunei, some are in Nigeria, some are in other parts of the world. And here we are, we're having this conversation, showing that the pattern of work, the way we saw work has changed. You now find that the world is closer together. And with this the shrinking of migration, you see that we now have more cultural diversity. And indeed, what does it mean to the world in terms of acceptability, in terms of modification, in terms of being more embracing? Diversity and inclusion is no longer a buzzword. It is now a necessity. You just really have to factor it into your design if indeed you're going to succeed in this global transformation. Last but definitely not the least, because even if one could say, oh, I am immune, I've been protected from the other 3, global health, we saw what happened in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic. It once again let us realize that we can't talk about first world, we can't talk about second world, we can't talk about third world. Look, a pandemic is a pandemic. COVID did not care who you were. COVID did not care what your bank balance was. It didn't care how it was being spread. And it was no longer a matter of, it's not a poor man's disease, not a rich man's disease. It was just there as a disease, period. And we now saw that with the COVID-19 pandemic, there was transformation in our public health practices, transformation in the healthcare system. You find that telemedicine actually it was boosted during COVID-19 pandemic because the hospitals were full and people could not get the care that was needed. We had to start looking at what are the other ways of giving this much needed care. And definitely we saw a stronger international cooperation. And this is something I really want to emphasize on as we talk about global transformation. The world came together to solve the COVID-19 pandemic, which means that the other things, that other societal challenges that we do not call a pandemic, but because they're local to areas, they're things that indeed can be resolved. We keep seeing more and more of the migration patterns, both legal and illegal. And the question is, how do we come together? How do we come together as one to resolve the issues? What are the issues that are leading people to leave their country? They want to risk the sea, the ocean, to get elsewhere. That in and itself is a clear and present danger that needs to be dealt with as we're going. And of course, the best for all of us that we saw from the greater adoption of remote working, which hitherto, I mean, you hear about everybody goes, no. If I was talking to someone who's been in Shell forever, and he was like, no, we can never do remote working. And I always smile because I feel I'm not this was some kind of remote working for next slide, please. Babs? Okay. So now looking at it within the Nigerian context, what does this mean for us as the world is transforming? And the pace of this transformation is high, is fast. What are the challenges that we face for us in Nigeria as a nation? We have infrastructure deficiency. There's a huge digital divide. Our youth unemployment is still high. But in all challenges, you find opportunities. Where you have a youthful unemployment, you also have a youthful population. Youthful population meaning that we have a young population, a population that is better, I dare say, malleable to the changes that are coming up in terms of crossing that digital divide. Folks that are more internet savvy and indeed can create employment for us and for others. They are not so much in the world of they're graduating or they're finishing their high school education and looking for who will employ them. They are on their own creative employment. We look at our natural resources. We have abundant natural resources, but time is ticking. Time is going. The energy transition is real. It is going to happen. In the past few years, because Nigeria was plagued by the unfortunate occurrence of oil theft, and of course the corruption that plagues our country, we find that with the high prices of oil in the past, let's say 3 years now, we've not been so much been able to benefit from it. But with the right investment, we can accelerate our economic growth. That is the reality. The right investment, the right economic, the right policies, and of course the right leadership tone at the top, we are able to optimize these natural resources that we have, because we're not going to leave it in the ground. We have other nations that have built their countries. I'm not going to bother mentioning names because I am talking to Shell folks here. You know the countries we're talking about. Where are we in Africa? Where are we in Nigeria to leverage our natural resources? We have so many minerals. One of the things that are coming up last year, there's a greater focus now on mining. But as we're looking at it, because we are late, we have to contend with sustainable practices of producing our oil and gas, of mining our natural resources, and of course ensuring that the proceeds that come in are actually used for what they are meant for. And last but definitely not the least, digital innovation. Nigeria indeed has a burgeoning tech industry. You have folks today who are working for external companies. You have companies that are working for they're working for other countries, working for other countries, but they are still in Nigeria. But what are the things we also need to be mindful of? That there's no exploitation of our own people. Some new form of you're taking work out of the United States or thereabouts, and you're going to Africa where you get away with paying, let's say, $100 or $200 a month just because of the exchange rate. But we do have our own tech industries that are coming up very, very strongly. And we've seen a number of them. Interestingly enough, look at the financial services sector today. A lot of old traditional banks are being challenged. You see people running OPay accounts, Kuda money, money points, etc., etc., and it's just easy. And you see that the unbanked population is reducing as this goes on. Babs, next slide, please. Now, for us further, looking at it just to bring it home a little bit more for us as a nation, there are things that we should just look at. First of all, we need to understand that national development needs to increase as a country. We cannot talk about we have sustainable development or our GDP is this, per capita income is this and that, if the gap between the have and the have not continue to be so wide. We need to create a welfare system for the country that would encourage a higher standard of living. Please note, I said a higher standard of living than where we are today as a nation. And there are some things I'd just like to touch on as we reflect on what we can do. One, power, energy, innovation, and technology adaptation. Let me just even stick with power, which is where we in transport comes in. The fact is we do need to have a sustainable energy solution. Our power penetration is still too low for our country. Our national grid today, according to the Transmission Company of Nigeria, can support 8,000 megawatts of power. But our need is in multiples of that. So what are we doing different? So we have people like Transcorp who is invested. And I see my sister Falaka is also here. Falaka is the MD of Ikeja Distribution Company. And together we're seeing that we're working closer because for us to indeed have any form of sustainable transformation in our country, we do need to deal with power. Because power, this might sound like strategies. The Naira has progressively gotten weaker. We need to find a funding solution to our own funding in Africa. How do we try that we need to actually transform our country? Today, we are still too import reliant. We need to move from an import consumption economy to an export driven economy. And why do I believe we can do this? Because we've done it before. We've done it before, and with the right policy framework and governance, we will be able to do more. In May, we got new leadership. We're seeing certain changes. Yes, it is coming with a lot of strife and challenges right now. But how about we give it a chance? And let's see what's going to happen. Because indeed, when we were running before, it was just not sustainable. But we do need a very strong policy framework and governance that will drive investment, progress, development in the key sectors of education, health, manufacturing. We need to drive global partnerships because without global partnership, there's only so much we can do. And partnership does not mean aid. Partnership does not mean aid. A partnership is a mutually beneficial relationship. It is still Africa that gives you double-digit return. So we do have something to offer, and it's just about how we put forward ourselves. What are the opportunities that we have in our climate action and environmental sustainability? A whole lot. If you look at the contribution of Africa, the whole of Africa, to the climate rating, it's low, which means that we are able to still see how we can build and get the benefit of the carbon credits and the sustainable energy practices that can drive us and let us attract favorable policies that will help Nigeria and Africa. Last but definitely not the least, without a doubt, we need to continue to focus on youth empowerment and human capital development. We really need to do this. So one of the things I've done in past was to be the Chief Operating Officer of the Tony Lumelu Entrepreneurship Program, which is a $100 million entrepreneurship fund that was targeted at identifying, funding, mentoring, and training 10,000 African entrepreneurs over a period of 10 years. And I can tell you that through partnerships, when we had the right products, a lot of FDIs are willing. They're coming to partner with us because they realized that they had to change the way they were dealing with Africa. As at 2 years ago, the number had crossed over 15,000. And now that that program has expanded to more capacity development, you'll find that hundreds of African entrepreneurs have been trained. And what does that mean? It means that we've created hope in hundreds of thousands of people that typically they wouldn't have had before. And when there is hope, it's just a no-brainer that people will work towards getting better. And as they work towards getting better, their economic contribution will lead us towards our national development. Perhaps. I'm just going to take a few stories here. We have the story of Vietnam, the success story of Vietnam. Now, I know some people might say, oh, but Vietnam still has challenges. Yes, but I should point out that the whole world has challenges. There's no country in the world, maybe except Finland, but then we'll see more later, that doesn't have challenges. But Vietnam's economic transformation began in the late 70s and early 80s. And this is a country that was recovering from the devastating effect of the Vietnam War. We haven't had a kind of war in Nigeria as high as this Vietnam War. Yes, we had the Civil War in 1963, but that was like 60 years ago. Actually, not 63, I mean, I beg your pardon, late 60s into early 70s. So it's over 40 years ago that we had that war. But looking at what Vietnam has done, in 1986, they passed the Dua Mo reform, which was basically about renovation. And that was the message they were preaching, where they were shifting their country from a socialist-oriented market economy, opening up the country to foreign investment and trade. So a number of policies and reforms were done by the government aimed at liberalizing and modernizing the economy. Of course, when you have such a thing, your FDI would improve. And in this case, the Vietnamese government actively courted foreign investment, because foreign investment plays a critical role in the transformation of your economy. I would just need everybody to pay attention or draw their own similarities between what we're doing now and where, because I've said some people like, oh, why are we spending a lot of time? There's stuff that's supposed to be done in-house. We can work hand in hand. Nobody says you cannot do things simultaneously. Vietnam went on to focus on export-led growth. So they corrected their own importation malay and started focusing on developing their manufacturing and export sectors. Today, what do we have? You have them exporting garments, textiles, electronics, and footwear. They are major export industries. In fact, I was having a chat with my team, I understand a number of our phones today comes from Vietnam. Interested. They went on, they have trade agreement. Trade agreement, perhaps this was the most significant being the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as well as the European Union Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, which expanded its export market. In Africa, we have the AFTA. How are we using it? What other trade agreements are we going to come up with? And this is why attending summits like the G20 that happened in India a couple of weeks ago is important. Because when you're around the table, you're able to have conversations like this. You sign treaties, and then you start working out the how to make those treaties work. Infrastructure development. Vietnam invested in infrastructure projects, modernizing their ports, roads, and airports to improve logistics. Again, this is what we can do in Nigeria to improve our national development. For the education and rural development, again, they did so much. In fact, one thing that I really want to highlight about Vietnam is the education system. They shrunk their system. They now have, in a 10.2 years, you can finish from your primary all the way to tertiary. And what does that do for them? They are able to upskill their workforce quickly, and they have younger people that can get into the market while they're still strong and start working towards contributing to the bottom line. So let's compare the 10-year system that you find in Vietnam to our system in Nigeria, where we have the 6334, and that gives you what, 16 years. So once you're spending 16 years excluding strike, if anybody has experienced strike, and I get some emotion, some reactions in if your study was interrupted by strike whilst you were, it can't just be one hand, more, I need to see more. If you were interrupted by strike, the official time to finish school in our dearly beloved country is 16 years without strike. And this 16 years, you didn't study medicine, didn't read architecture and all of those other ones, yeah? You did a 4-year course. I mean, compared to Vietnam, where in 10 years, you're done with your tertiary education, and you can go on to get very strong and solid jobs. Of course, the rural migration, rural-urban migration is something else that they have focused on. Today, Vietnam is still having some challenges, but they are seeing the pathway out of that challenge. But they now, this country's success story is one of the things that is cited about how a socialist-oriented economy can transform into a market-oriented one. Now, why did I pick this? For our country, Nigeria, once we've said we've been a capitalist society, we still have a lot that is government managed, government run. And that's why over the years, you've seen that there's been more of privatization, which we have some successes, but like with all things, we also have some areas that could have been better improvement. But it's important that we look at it and say, if Vietnam could, if Vietnam can, so can Nigeria. Next, please. Next slide, please, Babs. Very quickly, I'll look at, we cannot talk about what's outside. I'll start looking at our own continent. And let's look at Rwanda. We all talk about Rwanda. Rwanda seems to be our favorite when we look at it. Rwanda experienced one of the most horrible scenes, man against man, ever recorded in history, with the genocide that claimed over 1 million lives and left the country's economy in ruins. But their new government, led by President Paul Kagame, despite facing the immense challenge of rebuilding the nation, both economic and socially, they have continued to do so. I recall 2011 going to Rwanda, and they had just one hotel that was worth staying. I think it was Hotel Serena. That Hotel Serena at the time could not hold a candle to anything. But what do you have today? In today's Africa, when people want to have conferences, Rwanda is a spot for conferences. They have their Rwanda Airlines that partners with you. Look at their government, look at their ministers, young, capable people that are just focused on getting the job done. Some weeks ago, I was traveling from Warri to Lagos, and there was a minister from Rwanda, and I heard somebody saying, "Oh, sir, you're so very simple. Nobody would know you're a minister." And I smiled internally because I'm like, what you're calling somebody is simple. This is what is their minimum expectation from them. It's not about going, it's not about all the, we talk about the cost of governance and so. But back to it. Rwanda, 6 plans, 6 levers that they used to drive their own economic transformation. 1, political stability and visionary leadership. Very, very important. Having a leadership that's able to visualize and inspire the people to believe in what they're doing. 2, Rwanda invested heavily in education. And by investing in education, what was the output? A more skilled and capable workforce, which is going to drive the next things that they did. Infrastructure and development, they invest heavily in their own infrastructure. Thus, reducing the cost of doing business and creating improved connectivity within the country and with neighboring nations. They went on to diversify their economy, encourage sectors like services, tourism, information technology. The Kigali Innovation City project, for example, they were able to turn the capital into a regional tech hub. Their ease of doing business, they streamlined their bureaucratic processes, reduced corruption, I dare say eliminated, as well as implemented investor-friendly policies. Now, let me say a little bit more about their friendly policies. This is not even me as an investor. When we used to be prior to COVID, we had this forum we did annually called the Tony Limelu Entrepreneurship Forum. Rwanda reached out to us in Nigeria to pitch that we should come and host the forum in their country. And they talked about how they're going to give us support from visa to discounted airline tickets, etc. This is how you court investors. This is how you attract businesses to you. Now, why were they doing that? Is it because they were being a charity? Of course not. Imagine taking a forum that has like 2,000, 3,000 attendees there. What's going to happen? Their hotels will be sold out. Local sellers, their domestic economy will thrive from that business that is there. And last but not the least, they had global partnerships. Paul Kagame and his team actively sought partnership with international organizations, including the AU and the UN, so that they could promote trade, attract investment, and address regional challenges. Of course, as you know, there have been some negative about, there's perhaps there's some discussions here, but look, this is where they are today, and they have transformed, and they continue to diversify. And this is despite facing a strong historical challenge, we've seen that a country in Africa can indeed turn its story around very quickly. I mean, 10 years is quick enough towards a more sustainable economic platform. Next, please. I'm going to try and speed through so we can have some questions and answers. These are just some private sector contribution. I would pick just 2 of them. But today I'm talking to all of us here. We are a part of the private sector. I urge you to go and read about Tata and how Tata about the history of India without talking about Tata. It's impossible. And there are a number of things that they did, from catalyzing the steel industry, industrialization of Tata, university, healthcare. Then we go to South Korea. We see Samsung. With the success of Samsung smartphone, semiconductors, and other products, it has boosted the South Korea export revenue. You are the oil people. The story of Petrobras is there clearly. One of the largest revenue generating companies in Brazil. Perhaps now that our own NNPC has gone private, let's see what will come out of that. Next, please.
Hello, Dr. Owen.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I went over the woods. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly. Yes, please.
Oh, perfect. Now bringing it home to Transcorp, because I've talked about other companies that are working with their countries. Yeah. In Transcorp, we're invested in 3 industries. Hospitality is a sector that I've made my money, I'm going, yada, yada, yada. No, it's not that type of sector. Power is one that, there's some social elements to power. And because for us in Transcorp, our purpose is to improve lives and transform Africa. And that's what led us to investing in power. And today, we account for about 18% of Nigeria's installed power generating capacity. And we're continuing to focus on how to expand upon that, looking at both renewable as well as our gas-fired plants. Our hospitality business. Indeed, you cannot say you're open for business if you're open for people to come into your country if you do not have decent hospitality. And we see how we have put forward our Transcorp hotels. We've also gone further with our Aura by Transcorp Hotels PLC, which is our digital platform for people to book experiences and book holidays. So overall, for us, we are looking at how to continue to partner with the government to transform previously moribund industries. When we won the bid for Ughelli Power Plant, which is now Transcorp Power Limited, it was just doing 160 megawatts. In less than 5 years, we took that 160 megawatts to 600 megawatts. Most recent acquisition, which is the Afan Power Plant in Rivers State, we came in and it was doing 35 megawatts. By the end of this December, we should be at 400 megawatts. As we speak now, we're actually tying 240 megawatts to grid, but we've had some issues because of the gas challenges that we have. Gas continues to be a problem for us on the generating side, as well as the obsolete infrastructure that we have on the distribution side. And these are things that we really need to pay attention to and fix, actually, because we have this capacity, but are we able to generate it? Are we able to deliver the power? Why power is important? No matter the industry you're in, you need to fix the power sector. And that's what we are in, what we are doing, what we are working on. So as we begin to wrap up, please, next slide. So for us, we're looking at how can we be a partner? As we close, for all of us, let's keep something in mind. We are Nigeria's ambassadors. And I'm really glad about what we're doing here today. How do we use our social media? What's the narrative we're putting forward about our country? Because you see, you and I, what we say will carry more weight than what any politician says. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize, by all means, less. But these are the things that we need to look at. Driving infrastructure development. Understand that energy transition is here, and how do we move forward? We must stop the oil theft and we must optimize our production. Digital transformation is here to stay. workforce development and job security, and of course, last but not the least, regional cooperation. And regional cooperation is built by each and every one of us. How do we move on? All of us are here. We are all part of the society. There's only one country, even if you have a second citizenship or whatever, your original, your birth country is still in there. And in closing, all I would just say, Babs, next slide. Nigeria, together we can. So on that note, I say happy independence, everyone, and thank you once again for the opportunity.
Please keep the applause coming. Like, I've been clapping, but because I'm muted and my video is off, I literally wish we had more time. I cannot begin to condense what just happened here now and everything that Dr. Owen just said. I literally was writing 5 sentences a second just to try to capture everything that she was saying and how much as a people, we literally have what it takes to move ourselves from where we are to where we need to be. If you look at the topic again, the theme for this event is accelerating national development in the face of global transformation. I loved it, Dr. Owen, when you said in all challenges, you always find opportunities. And he said partnership is not aid. Partnership is not aid. I wrote that, I circled it, I underlined it. He said it is a mutually beneficial relationship. And until we begin to see that and see how we can walk our way into those relationships where we can also benefit, we do have some ways to go. Talking about climate change and sustainability, how we're moving from oil and gas to energy, digital transformation and technological advancements. I'm just doing a little bit of a rehash in case you're just joining us. You've missed a lot. I'm very sorry. But luckily, she's still with us. So if you do have your questions, like Bob has said, you can put your questions in the Q&A sector. Now, I know a lot of us have already submitted questions prior to the webinar tonight. So don't worry, we will start with your questions. But if you're just joining us, I see some people from different places joining. I see Ruth and Kelechi from Lagos and Abuja. I see somebody from Uniben, Iyetul. Everyone is hailing. I'm a bit jealous of Uniben tonight, but let me focus on the problems that we have in front of us. So thank you so much, Dr. Owen. Please, can we appreciate her once more with digital applause, thumbs up, appreciation, love, emojis, every way to just thank her for the amazing keynote address that she has just delivered. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing it from the car. Oh my goodness, that's another learning point, literally. For me personally, there's no excuse to deliver when it comes to national transformation and putting your voice out there. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking that hit for us. It doesn't look like you're in a car. If you hadn't said it, there was no way we would have been able to tell where you were. And please, we really hope that you'll stay because we do have some questions popping in for you already. And from the comments, also on YouTube, people on YouTube also sending reactions and people sending questions here as well. Please, I'd like to let you know that if you have questions, please do not put it in the chat, the webinar chat, because it will get lost in the barrage of congratulations and greetings that are going on. Please use the Q&A button that is on the bottom of your screen, okay, to send questions. And please put her name, Dr. Owen, there if the question you have is specific to her. All right. Thanks, Dr. Owen. Lots of thanks and lots of congratulations also coming in from YouTube and from Zoom as well. Thank you very much. I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful knowing the caliber of people that we have and the fact that Dr. Owen is not alone. When she called Mrs. Folake, my sister, I just knew that, oh my goodness, something hot is happening here when there are sisters across sectors and it's powerful and we're, making things work. Thank you so much. And without further ado, please don't worry. I can see some people sending messages. She's still with us. Okay, so she will have an opportunity to answer a few questions, but we're going to now take some time to introduce the other members of the panel that will be sitting and speaking with us tonight. Like I had said at the beginning of this webinar, Sadly, we've not been able to we can't have Dr. Yemi Kale anymore because due to ill health, he can't join us tonight, but he did send his regrets and he really, really wished that he could be here. However, we do have two absolutely amazing people. I'm going to be reading the very first bio before I hand over to Mr. Usman, who will go ahead to read for Mrs. Folake Shoeton. Well, first of all, let's get to meet Engineer Eloho Aiboni. Engineer Eloho Juliana Aiboni is the first female managing director of Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, SNEPCO, an appointment made in August 2021 and a testament to her technical competence and her drive for excellence. Before her appointment as the SNEPCO MD, Eloho already had a reputation for being the first female in several of the roles in her career. She was the first female asset manager for the Bonga FPSO, responsible for overseeing end-to-end production delivery from the Bonga Deepwater field. She has held several engineering roles locally and internationally across production operations, project asset management, operations readiness and assurance, including functioning as a business advisor. She's a seasoned chemical engineering graduate of the great University of Benin. What is going on here tonight? What is happening, please? University of Benin is literally taking over. With over 20 years work experience in the oil and gas industry, her zeal for learning and development also led her to pursue a master's degree in integrated environmental management from the University of Bath in the UK. Eloho is a registered Quorum member, as well as a fellow of the Energy Institute, Nigerian Society of Engineers, NSE, and the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers. Eloho sits on several boards in the oil and gas sector, including the Women in Energy Nigeria. She's passionate. She's passionate about developing young talent and building an inclusive workforce. She leads a diverse team that leverages on technology to simplify work processes and drive continuous improvement, not just for the purpose of promoting the Shell brand, but the advancement of engineering in Nigeria. Eloho is happily married to Mr. Sam Aiboni, and in her spare time, she loves to play tennis like our Nigerian chairman here in Brunei, and she loves to watch football. Wow, wow, wow. Please, can we hear the clicking of the finger, clapping, thumbs up, lots of, if you can tell from her look, you know that football has her, tennis has her, engineering has her, you know, diversity has her, youth has her, women, University of Benin has her. I'm not jealous tonight, but we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us, Engineer Eloho Juliana Aiboni. Thank you so much. And welcome to the panel. If you could please unmute yourself and just say hello to the people. Oh, we can't hear you, ma'am. I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself. And thank you for having me. Not just me, but Dr. Owen and Folake. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting panel session. I am looking forward to it. And to the Nigerians out there, you make me proud every single day. Proud of you all. And just keep doing what you know how to do best.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's really our honor to have you here. I'll be handing over to Mr. Usman to do the introductions for Mrs. Folake Shoeton.
Yeah, I'm here, Karachi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Super.
Wow, I'm so excited today. It's also super ladies in the panelists today. That's really tells us something, right? All right, so I have the honor of introducing Mrs. Folake. So Ms. Folake Shoeton is an accomplished commercial and business executive with over 23 years of relevant experience in aviation, oil and gas and power sectors. She's an alumnus of Harvard Business School and the University of Lagos with proven track record in business transformation, management, leading cross-generational teams, and most importantly, mentorship. She began her career in aviation sector before joining Sahara Group in 2009 and started SO Aviation Nigeria prior to expanding the company beyond Nigeria to Ghana as Vice President downstream West Africa. Her work in aviation, SO Aviation, increased the company market share and improved its ranking from 7th to 3rd position. Wow. Mrs. Folake is currently Chief Executive Officer of Ikeja Electric PLC, which is the largest electricity distribution company in sub-Saharan Africa. She is a transformation leader and an astute advocate of leading with empathy. At Ikeja Electric, she's driving the company transformation and unprecedented performance by leveraging the diversity of her team, their talents, and unique experiences to deliver business results. This has earned her outstanding awards, but locally as well as internationally. She's basically been recognized with many certifications, such as Best Electricity Distribution Company and Most Gender Diversity Utility Company, which were won during the Nigerian Power Sector Awards in 2022, along with the certification of Ikeja Electric Systems and Processes in line with ISO 9001-2015 and OSAS 18001 standard, respectively. Likewise, Folake was among the ACU 100 women recognized by the Lagos State government in 2022, an attestation of her contribution to the development of the larger society. Her work and experience both at home and abroad reflect her passion to create, build, and sustain people and businesses. Similarly, Folake is passionate about driving sustainable development with emphasis on ensuring people have access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy through her work as board member and vice president, Power and Renewable Energy at Women in Energy Network. Additionally, she is a member of Women in Management, Business and Public Service, and the Boardroom Africa, where she's making an impact as well as empowering women to excel in business and leadership roles. She is renowned for being international, intention about achieving goals, committed to excellence and excellent service delivery, leverages technology for transformation with exemplary critical and creative thinking capabilities. She has mentored several young men and women aspiring to build successful professional careers. She believes the world is her runway and she sees no limit in attaining success. She's bold, full of life, cling closely to her faith in God, and is happily married with 2 children, a set of twins. In another wall, you find her choosing the perfect wallpaper and curtains for a new home or racing on the Formula One track. Wow, I'm simply blown away. Please, a round of applause, please, for Ms. Folake. You're welcome, madam. Maybe you can also unmute and say a few things to the audience, to the attendees.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Usman. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's 3:16 a.m. where I am. I'm actually on holiday in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
But this is something I'm very passionate about. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I'm very excited to be here. Amongst, like, you know, Owen said, my sister, Elo, we work together in Women in Energy Network. So I'm excited to be part of this panel. And I hope that, you know, by the time we finish, we'll be able to impact knowledge and of course also get some interaction from the audience on how we're going to move our country forward. And I'd just like to end with happy Independence Day to everyone. God bless you guys.
Thank you. All right, Karachi, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to you, Mrs. Folake Soweto. And thank you for joining us from holiday. And I'm sure, I hope you find some nice wallpapers to take back to Nigeria with you. I found that very interesting to hear. So my first question actually comes to you, Mrs. Folake. Is it okay if we call you Mrs. Folake, or would you prefer Mrs. Soweto? You're muted still. Anyone?
All right. Please just call me Folake. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So talking about the power sector, it has been widely acknowledged that inadequate power supply is one of the greatest hindrances to economic growth in Nigeria. And the World Bank projects that the economic cost of these power shortages is estimated to around $28 billion, equivalent to 2% of Nigeria's gross domestic product. So in your view, as a key player in this industry, what would you say has been the greatest challenge that's mitigating against the power sector, and why this issue just seems to be so intractable?
Okay, thank you very much for that insightful question. I think when Owen was presenting, she kind of touched on it briefly, but I'll speak to that. The power sector in Nigeria today faces several challenges, and honestly, it has really hindered its ability to meet the country's energy demand. And we know the significant impact power has on the Nigerian economy, but it's not unsurmountable. As Owen said, challenges are basis of, for me, I see challenges as opportunities. But there are different things that have just, continued to be a challenge in Nigeria. And one of the major challenges that we face in the power sector is inadequate and aging infrastructure. There is insufficient investment in the power space, both from generation to transmission and, of course, even to distribution. There's been a lot of investment that's gone in, but it's capital intensive. And as such, the investment has been put in is not sufficient enough to be able to at least optimize or capitalize on the capacity that we have in Nigeria. For example, the current and total installed capacity in Nigeria is far below the growing demand for electricity today. And I mean, if you look at some of the stats that we have, this capacity deficit results in the frequent power outages, of course, that we see every day. People talk about unreliable service, which obviously directly impacts industries, for example, businesses, ability for them to grow. And as such, like I said, has a direct impact, of course, on economic growth. Looking at the last data that we had by USAID in 2021, it says that Nigeria boasts of a total installed power generation capacity of over 16,000 megawatts, right? And this capacity is derived from various sources, and primary contributors to this capacity is hydro, gas, and gas-fired thermal power plants. And the hydropower electric power plants provide about 2,000 megawatts, while the gas-fired thermal power plants significantly contributes about over 11,000 megawatts to the grid. And we also have obviously some additional sources in the mix, including, for example, solar, wind, and even non-renewable options like the diesel, the everfuel oils, which accounts about let's say 2,350 megawatts. And these figures seem impressive somewhat on paper, but the reality on ground definitely, like I said, paints a different picture. But despite this substantial capacity, Nigeria continues to grapple with these challenges in fully trying to, harness the opportunities that we have. Let me try and put it in perspective for us. So in February, I think 2021, we achieved like a notable milestone as a company, no, not as a company, as a country, where we recorded the highest ever dispatch power of about, I think, 5,600 megawatts. I mean, however, I mean, this achievement was only 22 megawatts higher than the previous peak, which we had achieved, I think, July, maybe not July, just a few days earlier than that, which was about 5,500 megawatts. This scenario that I've just painted now, with that being a milestone, should obviously be a concern to us, because Nigeria is a country with an estimated energy demand exceeding at least 98,000 megawatts. And we're struggling to fully leverage on even the capacity that we have today as a country. So you can see the opportunity there, and we're not just achieving it. I mean, I think when Owentu was speaking, she spoke about gas supply being a major constraint, major constraint to the GENCOs, who are critical to, obviously, the distribution companies who are delivering power to the customers at the end of the day. I mean, from the DISCO perspective, poor revenue collection, we have some regulatory bottlenecks. And the major issue with poor revenue collection and, of course, poor investment is lack of funding. So if the business itself cannot even run properly, or you're not even able to optimize the revenue that you're collecting, you can see that it's very difficult for you to be able to even attract funding. When I speak about regulatory bottlenecks, I speak about also a sector, at least from a DISCO perspective, that is unable to operate a fully cost-reflective system. And if you're not able to operate a fully cost-effective system, what that simply means, in essence, is you're not able to attract funding from the banks or your lenders. And if you're not able to attract funding from your banks and your lenders, you're not able to invest in the infrastructure that is required to unlock the potential that we have in Nigeria. So for me, in a nutshell, we know what the problem is, very clear. We know there's demand. We know what our limitations are as a sector, but we're just not able to unlock the necessary funding. I liked when we were talking earlier, and she said the partnerships we're looking for, I mean, externally outside of Nigeria, is not grants or handouts. It's really looking for a way of making it mutually beneficial. So with the new government in Nigeria today, with the emphasis on trying to attract external investors, where they know that if they bring in their money here, they are able to, have return on their investment, then I think that there's hope. Let me put it that way. There's hope. There's hope at the end of the tunnel. And the thing is that with our national currency experiencing depreciation and fluctuation, the cost of gas also tends to rise. And this occurs because it takes more naira, obviously, to purchase the same amount of foreign currency needed to pay for gas that is purchased for the GENCOs. But I'll leave that for the GENCOs. For DISCOs, as it were, major challenges that we face is that we have inadequate volume of energy that is available on the grid, like due to what I said. I mean, so there are issues obviously with the GENCOs. There's also issue even with the transmission company itself. And the DISCOs themselves also have internal DISCO constraints where they're also not able to push the energy to where is necessary. There are also some issues that are also very fundamental, like metering issues. So if you're having challenges with being able to collect revenue from your customers and you don't have adequate metering of all your customers, that has a direct impact on your performance as a distribution company. And it's not just Ikeja, all the DISCOs. There's also the major challenge of energy theft. So even with the limited energy that's available, there's a lot of theft that is going on. There's also vandalization of our assets.
Yeah.
Because of the state of the economy, a lot of people are stealing our assets, right, to sell. And I've told you, we're not running a business that is totally cost reflective. So what happens is that you're not able to even recover the cost of the asset that even requires to be upgraded. So the asset that you're even investing in is being stolen. And of course, the customer's inability to pay for energy supplied, energy that is not even cost reflective. I mean, I understand customer empathy. Customer feels, look, I'm not getting 100%. I'm not getting 24 hours from you. The alternative is more expensive. But the truth is that they can't but pay for the alternative. So when they combine the alternative with the grid cost, it's very expensive for them. So we are the ones that have the less priority, as the discos, for example.
Yeah.
So all of these things have a direct impact. But like I said, I don't like to focus on the challenges. You asked me what the challenges are. I'm very hopeful for a positive outcome, especially with this new administration, and hope that we'll get some additional funding in the sector, ensure there's a payment, there's discipline amongst the different players, and we definitely can capitalize on the opportunities that I've explained or described.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you, Folake. You've really done that question justice.
Yeah, so let me pick it from there then, Karachi. So thank you, Ms. Folake. I think you very clearly outlined the challenges, and I think linking that also the discussion with from Dr. Owen. I would like to bring Dr. Owen in a little bit, just to make sure we kind of digest, let's say, the kind of amazing speech that she actually gave. So clearly, I like the fact that you mentioned opportunities, right? Challenges, little opportunities, and I think that is really what we're hoping you can a little bit shed light on. So I hear things like infrastructural deficit, right? A lot of aging infrastructure. We just don't have the capacity to generate what we need, right? Gas kind of shortages. Funding challenges as well, right? So I think for me, I just want to put it out there, right? You've been in this sector for some time, and I think you're heading a very important conglomerate. How do we unblock these challenges in your view? And you can break it down for me, right? You can kind of talk about transmission, distribution, or generation. And I think for me, more importantly, linked to that is what has worked for other countries? Do we see some kind of let's say a public-private partnership that, I mean, you alluded to potentially having partners. We don't want handouts, which I fully agree with you, right? But how can we have what I call sustainable partnership that can maybe help us unbundle some of these challenges?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Please just nod if you can.
Yeah,
okay, great. I think Folake in her earlier statement put it out. Yeah. First of all, there has to be some sort of compensation. Yeah. One person can't do everything. We need to break it down into what are the various sectors, what are the various areas that will give us the greatest impact right now. Maybe we'll say the Pareto's principle 80-20, right? Then you're going to look at who are the people who are interested in this space, and operate upon the philosophy that you are looking at. Because you can't just go and lift someone's solution and try and put it in your country. It might not work because you might not have, you probably don't have similar socioeconomic issues as the other.
I think we lost Dr. Owen. Maybe hopefully she's back soon.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, okay, we can hear you.
Yeah. I said where we are in today's world, when you talk to investors across the various, they are looking for where to put their money. And that's something that's really interesting. Everyone is looking for where to put their money to get the maximum return if a way as possible. That's what everyone is looking for. In the power sector, we have our generation, we have our transmission, we have our distribution. What came out of COVID you find that some people have also built more capacity in terms of their warehouse, right? They have more inventory stock than they have a market for. So you see that there's a whole lot of changes today. When we looking at our own, we just and I'm being inundated for like oh, we do meters. I'm like, yeah, I know you do meters. But it's not just enough for me to take meters from you. I have to figure out how I'm going to pay you back. And that will take us into another factor that's very important in this transformation, which is favorable government policies. The private sector cannot make policy. Folake cannot make policy. Owen cannot make policy. What we do as private sector players is that we operate within an enabling environment that is created by the governmental policies. And you ask for an example. Don't go too far. Look at Rwanda. Paul Kagame has been called all sorts of names, from being the Okay, I'm back.
Yes, yes, welcome back.
I said Paul Kagame has been called all sorts of names, from being the Messiah to being the devil incarnate, depending on who you're talking to. Similarly, the last president of the United States, again, who you're talking to. Some think he's fantastic, others think, oh no. And that's where we need our policy that would promote. We just have the indication of the effect. Yes, we are all facing the issues because it was a bit abrupt. But to international investors, they say it's good because they have to be way out for their money back to them. Major challenge that they had. Can you still hear me? You look frozen on me.
Yeah, we can hear you. It's a little bit cracky, but yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we're passing through some construction here. Apologies again.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think to summarize, I would just say each country, each sector to have its master plan, its own action plan. You break it down, you prioritize it, you put timeline. We should be realistic.
Okay, I think I think the message is definitely clear from Dr. Owen. As she talk about potentially the policy, the government policy. She talk about having a solution that work for Nigeria. She cited the example of President in Rwanda, where they basically have done amazing things, and something that Nigeria can also do something similar. So maybe we move on from there, Karachi, and then we'll come back to that later on. Yeah.
All right, for sure. We'd like to have a chat with Engineer Loho. This question, we're putting it to you, but just before I ask Engineer Loho, please, if you're putting the questions in the Q&A, we will get to them. I know a few of us are being a bit impatient because we do want our questions asked. Please, we'll get to them, okay? And please, I'm asking, could we please keep the answers to like 2 minutes or so, because there's quite a bit of pressure coming from people who also want to be heard as well. So Engineer Mrs. Aloho. Okay, yes, you're here. So we'll also want you to continue based from where we stopped, talking about the energy sector and how interconnected it is. We have different players across different multiple industries, the entire value chain, gas producers, gas transmission companies, power generation, power transmission, just like what Folake has said, distribution companies, equipment suppliers, all of that, multi-regulatory agencies. And there's a potential for disconnect amongst all of these players, which we have seen to be the case in Nigeria, and which we think will impact how effective we are as a sector. So is this a valid concern that we're not all talking to each other? And if yes, where do you see the disconnect in the energy value chain for Nigeria? And what suggestions do you think you might have to improve that connection?
Thank you, Karachi. To be honest, right, I agree absolutely with you that the energy sector is interconnected. But I'm not sure there is a disconnect. What I actually see is each sector having systemic challenges, which we need to address. If we address those systemic challenges, the link will definitely look very solid. And let me look at it from the various sectors. So I'll take upstream first, right? If you look at the upstream industry in Nigeria, we are blessed with huge resources. So if I take gas, which is our focus, right? Nigeria has about 290 CF of gas. Majority of the gas coming from associated gas. And that's because we were actually exploring for oil. If we explore for gas, imagine where we will get. It's a province that is rich in gas. But if you look at the challenges we face in that sector, bunkering and pipeline vandalization continues to be something that really, really impacts our industry. The associated gas has been greatly impacted by bunkering, pipeline vandalization. With producing the oil comes the gas. And for you to be able to produce the gas, you've got to handle the condensate that comes with it. And you've got to use the line for evacuation of the condensate. That has really been impacted in the last couple of years. Vandalization is something that the government is tackling, but we're not out of the wood yet. So it has led to shortage of supply of gas. It has led to increase in maintenance costs. If you also think about projects in the upstream industry, in the last couple of years, we have had challenges with investing in upstream industry. And that's as a result of regulatory framework. In 2021, I believe, the PIA was passed. The PIA has really helped in unlocking some aspect of the upstream industry. So if you look at onshore asset, it favors the onshore asset. If you also look at some of the things the government has done with NNPC going public, the government is now able to pay cash calls. Just last week, we signed an MOU to reduce contracting cycle. All this would help improve investment in some aspect of the upstream industry. It will attract key contractors, it will drive efficiency, it will reduce cost. But it's all still being worked. So you don't see that impact yet, but as time goes on, we'll begin to see that. But there are some aspects of our industry in the upstream where we still need some help. We already talked about Nigeria being a rich province in gas. If you look at the PIA and the gas terms in it for dry gas, it's not favorable. It's already been worked, it's being looked into, but the speed with which we address this is really of importance. We have stranded gas with lack of infrastructure. Nobody would want to invest without being sure that yes, the money they put in, they will be able to recoup and it will be profitable. For gas projects, they are highly capitalized. So we need to attract investors to be able to do our gas projects. So all that are things that we face in the upstream industry, just to mention a few. So if I then look at the midstream industry, you heard Dr. Owen and Folake talk about gas shortage. It's the honest truth. Today, we are building train 7. LNG has 6 trains that requires about 3.5 billion SCOF. We're only able to meet about 65 to 70% of that need today. We are building train 7. So a lot of work is ongoing to see how we get the gas to keep all trains, the 7 trains full. But for us to be able to do that, people will invest. They need to be able to recoup their money. So a lot has got to be done in this space when it comes to investing in gas. Then if you move to the downstream sector, a lot really happening in this space. One of the challenges they face is misallocation of gas injected by the gas suppliers and failure to deliver at the contractual required pressure. With all that, it's going to be difficult to sustain the gas industry. But a few things need to be done to address that. We need to digitalize the system. there has to be full transparency with respect to what is injected and what is withdrawn by shippers. There has to be transparency in that chain. We need to be able to implement the balancing system of the network code, which helps us to give account of what is injected on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. We must be able to balance it. And that work needs to really be done. We must create a credible roadmap for fully implementing that network code with clearly defined timelines. We've been speaking about this for a long time, but we've got to see this progress. The dumb gas industry, the supply we've got to increase our supply to the dumb gas. We need to unlock all those stranded gases that we see in various fields. And for us to be able to do that, we must fix the domestic gas price, right? The price is something that is already enacted in the Act. It's impacting suppliers, it's impacting customers' business plan. We need to be able to publicize domestic gas price for people to be able to invest. If you look at the dumb gas obligation, right, we're always giving it out on a single yearly basis. The upstream industry doesn't work that way. When we plan, we do a 5 years plan, we do 10 years plan. So it's giving us just a single year, in a single year, every single year you share it with, it's not going to work. We need to be able to develop projects, mature them, invest in them for us to be able to make good progress when it comes to meeting the domestic gas supply obligation. So if you look at this, if you look at the full value chain, if we spend time addressing the challenges each sector faces, I bet you our industry will be, the energy industry will be a great place to work in. It will be one that will liberate our country. We would be one of the top countries in the world today, but we must fix the gaps we see in the energy sector.
Wow, thank you very much for that response. Please, can I get some I don't even know, reactions? Yes, thank you so much. I think for me, what's happening in my heart, I'm sorry, this is but just to share with us, and I think that's what's happening as well. There's hope. I'm getting a lot of shots of hope from the responses that I'm getting tonight. We're not completely hopeless. It's not a hydra-headed monster. We know what it is we need to do. It is complex, but we do have the solutions. We've started, and just like what Engineer Eloho said, it may not be showing up right now, but things are happening, and very soon we're going to begin to see the impact of those things. Thank you so much, Engineer Eloho. I'm coming back to you, Mrs. Folake, because let's talk a bit about data now and how it drives economic growth. So there are concerns about the validity of publicly available data across the various sectors in Nigeria. For example, there's inconsistencies when we're talking about the volume of refined products that were imported or consumed in the country. Similarly, for power generation, oil exports, agricultural products, all of that. There's also disagreement on population data, exactly how many are we. Are these concerns valid? And even more important, what role does data and the accessibility of this specific, or let me change that, accurate data, what role does it play in unlocking value, specifically for the energy industry? And can Nigeria adopt or apply any of the benefits that using data offers?
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, as a CEO of Ikeda Electric, I totally understand, the importance of data and its credibility in obviously being able to drive rapid business growth, which directly has a direct impact on economic growth. However, concerns about the validity and the credibility of publicly available data across various sectors in Nigeria are valid. That's the truth. There are inconsistencies in data across the various sectors, including the energy industry, which obviously hinders effective decision making and of course planning. But I think that we can address some of these concerns, because I think the essence of this session is to sell hope. And I think one of the things we can do, I think I'll just try and talk about some of the things we can do in terms of being able to leverage the power of data for, economic benefit. I think we can look at how we can ensure data is transparent, through government agencies, businesses. We need to work with research institutions who can just enhance data transparency and just share reliable information openly. And this obviously, like I said, includes data related to energy consumption, our production, our distribution. I think data governance is also very key. We need to strengthen data governance. It's important that we establish robust data governance framework to ensure that the quality of data, the integrity of the data, the reliability, the accuracy, and of course, the security of the data is ensured. And this pretty much includes us having ownership, taking ownership of the data, having clear roles and responsibility in terms of implementing, these data standards, and most important, promoting transparency. I think it's also very key that we promote collaboration. I think it's very important to foster collaboration between government agencies, even private sectors. These research institutions I mentioned, is important that we're able to have a database where a lot of this data can be shared and be cleansed. And let us just begin to drive best practice. And as well as also maybe having like a national clearinghouse for data, because I think this will definitely facilitate, a holistic understanding of the energy industry itself. And I believe this will also drive innovation. We also need to begin to invest in data infrastructure in Nigeria. Very key. We need to invest in modern data collection and management system. This exists today. This includes technology for real-time data collection, where you can have analytics, which can obviously enhance efficiency in terms of energy operations across the whole value chain. I think the country as a whole could also allocate resources to develop this robust data infrastructure instead of just depending on buying those systems. We can also look at capacity building. We have to invest in building data literacy skills amongst professionals working in the energy sector. We can do training on data analytics, interpretation, how to utilize and enhance this sort of data. And I think most important, continue to engage all the critical stakeholders in the value chain. We need to encourage active participation from stakeholders in terms of data collection. We need to have initiatives. We need to have private partnerships with, the public sector. We need to have platforms where there's open data initiatives. I think if we continue to do this and have regular audits, this would definitely help solve the data problem. But data is the new oil, as we know today. It's very critical and very key for us to be able to achieve any of the initiatives or objectives across the whole energy value chain.
Thank you so much. What a buzzword. Data is the new oil. I literally wrote that in caps and underlined it. This is where I'm like literally wishing that we had Dr. Yemi Kale here tonight, because he's the data person that would have been in our panel tonight. But thank you very, very much, Mrs. Falake. You've done that question justice. Mr. Usman.
Yeah, so let me get Engineer Eloho back, please. Because I think she really did very good justice to that analysis around the challenges, both upstream, midstream, and downstream. Is Engineer Eloho around, please? Maybe you can. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. So I think I really like the deep dive you bring into the deeper root causes around the challenges, both upstream, midstream, and downstream, and there will be a follow-up question to that. So let me just also mention that beforehand. But before the follow-up question, Nigerians are very impatient, right? I mean, we are impatient people. We want solutions tomorrow, right? Everybody wants light. Will you be able to put a timeline around this? To be able to get kind of power that we need to be able to lighten up. Somebody mentioned 98,000 megawatts of power that we need in the country. Where are we going? How long is it going to take us to get there?
I'm smiling because it's going to be difficult to say how long it's going to take to get there. We do have lots of gap that we need to fix, and it's going to be capital intensive. The reason why we haven't been able to fix it in the last couple of years is we've not been able to attract the right level of right quality of investors into our country. The beauty of having a new government is it's an opportunity to get more investors in, talk to investors, get them to see the value you're bringing in, and then we can then partner with them to resolve some of the challenges we see today. So what timeline do we see? It's going to be tough to tell, but I think what is critical is understanding the gaps that exist. What gap is short-term? What gap is long-term? When Dr. Owen spoke, she told us that we have about 8,000 megawatts capacity. We are currently only able to utilize maybe about five. Yeah, she said about 5.5 depends, 5.6. But the balance, can we actually work to resolve the issues that is affecting us getting the full capacity in to address it? You already hear investments ongoing. She talked about investment in the power sector. Our farm is growing to be about 400 megawatts at the end of the year. So people are actually making investment. So we want to be able to see those investment coming. But when we look at the power sector, we've got to look at the value chain to be able to fix it. If you fix only distribution, what happens to the supply? There has to be that end-to-end to be able to fix it. We are impatient as a country, and rightfully so. But now is the time to begin to think about the benefit of energy transition. Yeah. And this is where renewable comes in, right? From where we sit, clearly, just one energy source would not feed the over 200 million people we have in our country today. So we need to begin to ask ourselves, how can we utilize renewable energy that we have? Nigeria is richly blessed. We've got hydro, we've got solar, we've got thermal, we've got a lot for us to be able to use to meet our energy need. So now is the time to begin to change that narrative, improve the education that we have on renewable energy, right? And invest in it, attract private partnership to help us in this journey. We would not be able to close the gap, but you will find more and more people receiving energy. And that's where a company like Shell comes in. We've got Olon. We're using Olon to spread investment when it comes to solar energy in Nigeria. Just last week, we were with Oxano, who is building solar panels in Nigeria. They want to give China a run for their money. So you have people like Olon doing fantastic work in Nigeria. Just recently, we acquired Daystar. We want to play in the power sector. So solar panel, solar power is something that would benefit rural communities in Nigeria. Just imagine if we start by tackling some of this. We would not be able to close the gap fully, but it would help us address some of the issues that we have. So clearly, I don't think anybody can beat his or her chest and tell you this is the timeline that will be able to solve the power issues in Nigeria. But let's start somewhere. Let's fix our distribution network. Let's create opportunities for more investment to come in. And let's also improve our energy mix in Nigeria. It will help us address some of the challenges we see today.
Thank you, Leo. So I just want to quickly follow up because I think now that I have you, so there has been some question around the PIA, and I think you alluded to that previously, right? So the upstream sector has waited, I think, many years to get PIA passed. I think we were all quite, let's say, excited when it got to panel. I think yourself and a lot of your colleagues in the IOC and also beyond IOCs play a big role into that. But beyond the PIA, do you really see a new legislation being required, especially to tap into the energy transition, which you actually mentioned before? Or do you think PIA is it? And with PIA, are we ready to really deliver on the opportunities we have in the overall energy landscape?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. PIA is not a perfect document, we know that, but it's a good start. When I spoke earlier, I did say it favors onshore.
Yeah.
We already do know where those gaps are, and it's already been worked. So for example, if you look at dry gas, what we have in the PIA for dry gas will not work. It would not attract investors. So we need to fix that. Discussions are ongoing, but we need to quickly address that because there's a lot to develop when it comes to gas in Nigeria, right? We also need to be able to invest in infrastructure, like I said earlier on. Imagine what would happen if we address the gaps the gap we have in energy. There'll be job growth, there'll be education, improved education, industrialization will be great. Our healthcare sector will grow, and of course there'll be food security. So I do not believe, right, in creating new regulations. Let's start by making what we have work. It can be made to work. When we have then made it to work, we would now begin to attract investors. Our FDI will grow. And when that starts growing, we can then begin to say, now let's look at where the other gaps exist. What do we need to fix it? We do not lack regulation in Nigeria. We don't. It's how to tweak it to make it work. Sometimes we have them, but implementation is a challenge. We need to start implementing and tracking. If you don't implement, you would not know what you have in place. If you don't track, if you don't measure, how can you then say this is how we have performed and this is what needs to be changed? It's not a plethora of regulation or framework that would solve our problem. We need to do more than just putting bills in place. We need to start implementing, right? Once we implement them, we can then begin to see value, create more value, and begin to address gaps by then creating new ones that would help. So in summary, to be honest, I don't see new one coming in. Even if we have new ones, we don't implement it. How does it help us? It doesn't help us. So let's stay focused. We need to stay focused as a country and implement what we have, tweak it to be fit for purpose. It's not to collect from Europe and America and bring to Nigeria and use. No, we've got to tweak them to be fit for purpose for the Nigeria economy, and it would help us grow our industry and help the country also blossom.
Thank you. Thank you, Leho. Quite clear.
Thank you so much.
You next.
Yeah. I like it when Mr. Loho said focus. We need focus. We need to be focused in Nigeria. There's so many problems. Sometimes we're so lost, but focus is key. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask a final question to Mrs. Folake before we begin to round things up tonight. But Ms. Folake, this is a popular question, and this is literally from half the people I know that submitted questions tonight, and it has to do with tariff and electricity pricing. If anyone that has children in school, in Nigerian schools, will know that over the course of the summer, school fees went up by like 50, sometimes 60% in some places, and many schools quoted the tariff, and that was the issue. So our question tonight is, there's so many divided opinions. Some are saying current pricing of electricity is not, is basically unaffordable for majority of the people. Others are saying it's not competitive enough. And if it's not adjusted, it will discourage investments in the sector. We've already talked about that for a bit, but What are your experiences, or what are your thoughts on this? What's like the effective range, if you were to give us a range for electricity pricing that would generate growth opportunities in Nigeria for the power sector? Where would you place us?
You know, I'm calming myself down because I work in such a difficult sector that when you were not able to run a business that is simply looking at the commercials, something costs 10 naira, you're a business person, your cost is 10 naira. You should be able to recover your cost. It's just what it is, basic. But that's not my reality, right? So the issue of electricity pricing in Nigeria is honestly a very complex one. And it's been a subject of debate, like forever. While some argue that the tariffs are unaffordable for most of the people, others believe that they are not competitive. And like you said, may discourage investment in the sector. And that's a critical thing. Because what is important? Investment is required in the sector. We are clear, the stats are there. We know what the demand is. We know what our capacity is. We're not even using our capacity. We know what the problem is. We just need to improve our infrastructure. To improve our infrastructure requires funding. Anyone that is a lender, think about it. If we're going to give anybody money, you need to be sure that you can recover that money from the person you're lending the business to. So you have a good business plan. How do you recover that money? You recover that money from their cash flow. What is the person doing? How much is it costing? Are they able to recover that money? If you're already on the price, how can you attract additional funding required to give the customer what they want? So the customer doesn't want to pay for no light, in quote. So people say, I'm not paying for 24 hours power. But guess what? The cost of 1 hour power, the cost of 10 hours power, the cost of 24-hour power is the same. But like I said, I'm being careful because I'm a customer myself. I'm a Nigerian and I understand the realities of the market. But if we want to solve the problem, then let's go to the root cause. It's a matter that requires a very careful balance between, like I said, affordability for the customers and ensuring that there is a sustainable and a competitive energy sector. And I mean, for me as a stakeholder in the sector, we just need to be realistic. And to be fair, the reason why the service-based tariff came about from the regulator was to try and encourage, at least ensure that the distribution companies have a reason to ensure that they are providing the service, because customers don't want to pay for no light. So you want to be able to say, that's why there's the varied pricing model. So everybody's not paying the same price. But if you're getting 20 hours, you're going to pay more than the person that's getting 4 hours. So an effective range for electricity prices that will generate growth opportunity for the Nigerian power sector, like I said, depends on several factors, like for example, the cost of production, the cost of distribution itself, the cost of transmission. Those are costs that are not within my control. And if that cost increases, then that cost has to be passed on to the person that is using the product. It is important, however, to ensure that electricity prices are affordable, right? But also should be able to cover the cost of production and distribution so that you can attract the investment that is required to improve the service that we're giving our customers at the end of the day. It is essential to promote competition in the sector, of course, by encouraging, of course, private sector participation and investment. And if it's not cost reflective, you can't attract funding. It's just what it is. It has happened today. So for me, in conclusion, an effective range for electricity pricing in Nigeria should balance affordability with competitiveness while ensuring cost reflectivity reflectivity. It's very important that it is cost reflective. And for us to be able to achieve this balance, we require collaboration from government, from the regulators, from our industry stakeholders, and of course from consumer groups, to address the challenges that are associated with electricity pricing effectively. Important to note, if we're going to improve the sector, funding is required. If we're selling below the cost of the product, attracting funding will be very difficult. So at the end of the day, you're not going to solve a problem. You're just going to continue to have debt, which a lot of the discos have today, and we never solve the problem.
My goodness. Thank you so much, Mrs. Folake. Thank you very much. I think I understand better now what is happening in that sector. And thank you also for explaining it in such a way that anyone on the street can understand where the challenges are and where the solution is as well. Thank you to all our panelists tonight.
I hope they like that though.
Yes, so some answers are bittersweet, but it is what it is, like what you rightly said, So yeah, it does make sense. Thank you so much, Mrs. Folake. Thank you very much, Engineer Mrs. Eloho. Thank you so much also to Dr. Owen. I'm not sure if she's still here with us, but thank you to all the panelists here tonight. We're going to move on very quickly because of time. Thank you for being patient with us on YouTube. Thank you. I can see your comments and your thumbs up and your shoutings and everything happening there. Thank you so much. But to take the closing remark, I'd like to invite Engineer Mrs. Eloho Iboni to just give us the closing remark, just to wrap up this amazing conversation and panel discussion that we've had here tonight. Engineer Eloho.
I think it's really been an exciting session today. I'm sure we all agree that today was well spent, and I must commend the Nigerian community in Brunei for organizing such a fantastic session. Folake, you would agree with me that this is what we have been talking about as women in energy, that we look forward to a panel session where it will all be women. And I think today is a classic example of what is happening in the energy sector. The women are coming all out, and the industry is really, really, really growing. So thank you for making sure. It's sad that Dr. Yemi couldn't be with us today. Our heart goes out to him, and I hope he actually does feel better. But this has created an opportunity for an all-women platform. And to all the ladies out there, if we can do it, you can do it. So continue to stay focused. We have a lot to give to our country, Nigeria. And for us to drive the desired growth that we want, women must play a critical role when it comes to developing Nigeria. So thank you so much, Dr. Owen. Very, very, very great and insightful comments from your keynote. Mrs. Folake, thank you. Thought-provoking. The energy sector will thrive. The power sector will thrive. I have no doubt in my mind. Nigeria is a populous country. Our economy is going to be large and great because we are endowed with wealth of natural resources, and we must harness our resources. I do believe in just transition, like every other Nigerian. So we must make use of this opportunity that energy transition is giving to us. Other countries have done it. Places like China, we heard from Dr. Owen's speech today. I was really taking note, and I'm going to research the Vietnam economy. She's talked to us about Vietnam. Let's not go far. Rwanda is there. So we must have policies, we must have acts, we must have reforms, and we must have a clear roadmap that would help us drive economic transformation in Nigeria. It's a new dawn with a new government. It provides an opportunity for us to do that. Let's stay positive and let's believe in the government that what we expect of Nigeria will come to pass. Thank you once again for honoring us today, and happy 63rd Independence Day. Make sure you make the most out of tomorrow.
Whoa, thank you so much, Engineer Mrs. Beloho. You know, these are the kind of speeches that make you arm up for war. I just felt like, just take like, where are they? Let's just go, let's get them. Yes, I think most of the problems that we came here, very sober, we came here knowing where the issues are. And there's just a spirit of hope. There's a lightheartedness. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And that's because of the very excellent work done here tonight by our panelists and our keynote speaker. So please, can we appreciate them once more? I can see Mr. Goke Korede joining us, saying, well done, Team Brunei. Thank you very much. Rekia Usman Sarki, anyone that has been making comments, Noredia, DJ, Obina Mbono, everyone that's speaking, Alan G, also on YouTube. I'm sorry I can't take your names, but thank you very much for keeping the conversation lively and sending in your own contributions from the chat room. Lots of clapping going on there. But while that's going on, I also want to invite the NIAC chairperson. She's the person that has, put together all the events, or has been in charge of putting together all the events for this independence celebration period. She's going to give us the vote of thanks. Please welcome Bolanle Odunayo Ojo.
Good afternoon. Good morning, Ms. Folake. Good morning in Nigeria, and good evening to my brothers and sisters in Brunei. Oh, wow, it's been an amazing day. I've gotten so much information. I feel like I'm ready to just move. So I think on behalf of the Nigerian community in Brunei, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all present for today's NIAC webinar. This will be the third series since we kicked off the webinar series in Brunei. I would especially like to give a special recognition to our keynote speaker, Dr. Mrs. Owen Omogaifo. We thank you and your team for taking out time to share your knowledge and experience with the community and our guests. We know you're in transit, but you were able to make it happen. So thank you very much. To our notable key speakers, Engineer Mrs. Eloho Aiboni and Mrs. Folake Soweto, thank you. Your discussion points during today's webinar has been very educative, insightful, and impactful. I can say for a certain that we are leaving today with a clearer sense on how we can all make an impact in Nigeria during this transformation era. A lot has happened behind the scenes, leading to what we have all seen today. I would like to give a special thanks to the team, Babalala Akiloye, Mafe Sheun, Karachi Atia, Usman Ismail, and Otuka Umahi for all the work you've put in the past months in getting together our panelists and keynote speakers. And to all the participants on Zoom and YouTube, we see you all. Thank you for attending today's session. A number of you have been consistent over the past 3 years. We've heard from our speakers. I think the onus is now on us to do what we can do to move our great nation forward. To wrap this up, I would like to wish us all a lovely Nigerian 63rd Independence Anniversary celebration. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bolanle Odunayo Ojo, the captain of the ship that has, pulled all this together. Thank you very much. And thank you once again to all the panelists. As is customary with us, would like to invite our esteemed panelists and core team members to please put their cameras on so we can just take a virtual picture, since that's what's happening now all over the world. Since we can't all be in the same room, let's take a virtual group picture just to commemorate this occasion and to remember that this was where the conversation started. This was where those thoughts were shared. So please, we're inviting you. Also, Mrs. Bolanle Odunayo Ojo, if you could please join us. And then look at my own picture. Of all the people whose pictures look weird, it is mine that has to be transparent and I look like a ghost. So I literally will put my camera off so the rest of you can have a semblance of normalcy in the photo to be taken. Please, Mr. Otuka, remove my, okay, what happened? I don't think it's going to get any better. So let me just switch off my video and then allow the rest of you to take a group picture. Thank you.
I don't see Babalola. Is he Babalola and Mafe? Are they in?
Yes, they are in. Please, Mr. Mafe, Mr. Babs. We're waiting for you. So whilst that is happening, please go ahead and just inform Mr. Daniel Amogo as well. Mr. Daniel Amogo, if you're here, chairperson to the Nigerian community. Mr. Babs is here, Mr. Mafe is here.
Yes, I am here, but the camera is not enabled for me.
All right, okay, that's totally fine. So okay, let me try and put on my video again. Okay, I think my video is better now. Lots of congratulatory messages. While we're taking the picture, Ijoma says, I'm very happy to be female in this time. Thank you, everyone. Mrs. Owen, Engineer Iboni, and Mrs. Shreton, and the NIAC planning team. Ms. Rekia says, thank you, Ms. Folake. Thank you, Mrs. Owen. Thank you, Mrs. Aloho. Very beautifully delivered. Alan G, Mike Betola, Kelechi Mba, and of course, Goke Korede, everyone sending their well wishes to all our panelists at the time. Please let us know when you have taken the picture. Oh my goodness, this is even worse for me. Okay, let's just take it like that. I don't have an option.
All right, it's done, Karachi. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much once more to everyone that joined us tonight, to the panelists. I hope that this wouldn't just be a one-off conversation, but this will be the beginning of many. Thank you for your time, for your patience, those on holiday, those in transit, those who took out the time from every other thing from your busy schedule to have this conversation. Thank you. And to everyone that made copious notes like myself, and who are encouraged to have somebody in Abuja who currently does a lot of workplace seminars for people, and especially the women in Abuja. And she just sent me a message to say that she is so encouraged by everything she's heard here tonight. She's not in the power sector, but to see what everyone is doing has given her an extra zest and an extra oomph to continue. So it goes beyond what it is we discussed tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. 2023 NIAC webinar is over and done. If you could please just unmute yourselves and congratulate one another on Nigeria's 63rd anniversary. We've come a very long way. 63 is still young. We still have some ways to go, but we definitely are on the right track. So congratulations to all Nigerians, wherever you're joining us from. Congratulations to the NIAC team. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and good night. Mr. Otuka, our in-house DJ, if you could please play some music while we ease everyone out. Thank you so much, Mrs. Folake. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And well done, Karachi. You did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Indeed, she did.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Super Karachi.